I'm glad to have you here. Follow my story until the end and comment the city you're watching from. At my son's wedding, he stood at the microphone and said, "My mother-in-law paid for everything. My mom didn't even buy a flower." 200 people laughed. I sat in the back row holding the deed to a $3.2 million penthouse I was about to give him. He had no idea. The next morning, I took it all back. Chapter 1, The Last Row. The Plaza Hotel sparkled like something out of a magazine. Crystal chandeliers caught the late afternoon sun, scattering rainbows across white linen tablecloths. Fresh peonies, Danny's favorite since he was 8 years old, cascaded from tall centerpieces. The cake was 6 tiers of buttercream perfection. A string quartet played Vivaldi near the French doors leading to the terrace. It was beautiful. Every detail exactly as I'd imagined when I met with the wedding planner 6 months ago. My name wasn't anywhere on the program. I arrived early the way I always do. 30 years of running my own architecture firm taught me that being early meant being in control. But when the usher, a college kid in an ill-fitting tuxedo, smiled politely at me, he pointed toward the back. "General seating is this way, ma'am." "I'm the groom's mother," I said quietly. He blinked, looked down at his clipboard. "Oh, I'm sorry, the family section is full. But we have lovely seats right here, row 14, next to the kitchen doors." I could smell garlic and roasted chicken. A server rushed past me with a tray of champagne flutes, her elbow grazing my shoulder. She didn't apologize. Maybe she didn't notice. I was wearing a simple navy dress, elegant but understated. My mother's pearls at my neck. Nothing flashy, nothing that would draw attention. I sat down and placed my purse on my lap. Inside was a manila envelope. Thick, important, the kind that changes lives. Across the aisle, Patricia Ashford held court in the front row. Designer dress, perfectly coiffed silver hair, a smile that could cut glass. Her family surrounded her coordinated outfits, matching corsages, photographers snapping away like she was royalty. She'd called me 6 months ago. Her voice had been smooth as honey. "Margaret, darling, we simply must coordinate the wedding details. After all, we want everything to be perfect for our children." I'd agreed to meet her for lunch at some restaurant in Boston where the menu didn't list prices. She ordered for both of us without asking what I wanted. "Now," she'd said, dabbing her lips with a cloth napkin, "about the financial arrangements. Tori's father and I will handle the venue catering and flowers. It's important that everything reflects the Ashford standard, you understand." I'd nodded, sipping water. "Of course we'd love for you to contribute however you can. Perhaps the rehearsal dinner. Something small and intimate." Her smile had been kind, pitying almost. I could have told her right then. Could have mentioned the trust fund I'd established after Robert died, the one that had been quietly growing for 20 years, meant for Danny's future, a house, a wedding, whatever he needed. Instead, I'd said, "I'll see what I can do." 2 weeks later, I'd called my financial advisor, Geraldine Foster. We'd known each other for 15 years. She never asked unnecessary questions. "I want to fund the wedding," I told her. "All of it. Venue catering, flowers, music cake, everything." "Through the trust?" she'd asked. "Yes, but keep it anonymous. Route it through the wedding planner. I don't want anyone to know it's from me." "May I ask why?" I'd been standing in my kitchen looking at a photo on the refrigerator. Danny at age 7 missing his 2 front teeth, holding up a drawing he'd made me and Mom in crayon 2 stick figures holding hands. Because if it matters to me who gets the credit, I'd said then I'm giving it for the wrong reasons. Geraldine had paused. "Then you're a better woman than most, Margaret." "Or a foolish one." "Sometimes," she'd said gently, "they're the same thing." Now I sat in row 14 watching Patricia laugh with her family, accepting congratulations from guests who didn't know her name was on invoices she'd never paid. Danny stood at the altar, 32 years old, wearing a Tom Ford tuxedo that probably cost more than my first car. He looked happy, nervous. He kept tugging at his cuffs, a habit from childhood when he used to fidget before piano recitals. I remembered every recital, every soccer game, every debate competition. I'd been there for all of them, sitting in audiences much like this one, clapping until my palms hurt. Robert would have been so proud. My husband had died on a Tuesday morning in February. No warning. His heart just stopped. He'd been making coffee, humming some Beatles song. I'd found him on the kitchen floor, the mug shattered beside him, coffee seeping into the grout. Danny was 14. He didn't speak for 3 days. I was 38, suddenly a widow with a mortgage, and a teenage son who looked at me like I was supposed to have all the answers. Robert's family had come to the funeral. His mother, 2 brothers, their wives. They'd stood in our living room afterward eating casserole brought by neighbors, speaking in low voices. "You'll need to sell the house," Robert's mother had said. Not asked, stated. "It's too much for you to handle alone." "We'll take care of the estate," his brother Michael had added. Robert would want family to manage things properly. They'd tried to take everything. Said the house had been purchased with family money, Robert's inheritance from his grandfather. Never mind that I'd made the mortgage payments for 12 years while Robert built his engineering practice. Never mind that my name was on the deed. I'd hired a lawyer. Fought them. Won, but it cost me. In money, in time, in the way they looked at me afterward like I'd stolen something that wasn't mine. I learned then that people will always underestimate you if you let them, so I stopped letting them. I went back to school night classes in architectural design while working 2 jobs. Waited tables at a diner from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. Did freelance drafting work in the evenings while Danny did homework at the kitchen table. On weekends, I cleaned houses. It took 3 years to get my certification. Another 2 to land my first real client. But by the time Danny was ready for college, I had my own firm. Small, just me and 2 junior designers working out of a converted warehouse in Richmond. We specialized in adaptive reuse, taking old buildings and reimagining them. Strip malls into community centers. Abandoned factories into loft apartments. I was good at seeing potential where others saw ruin. The business grew. Within 10 years, I had 3 offices and 45 employees. When Danny got into Columbia law, I didn't hesitate. I sold the house, the one Robert's family had tried to take, the one I'd fought so hard to keep. "Mom, you don't have to do this," Danny had said when I told him. We'd been standing in the driveway watching the moving truck pull away. The new owners, a young couple with a baby, were already measuring windows for curtains. "I'm downsizing anyway." I'd lied. "Big house, just me, doesn't make sense. But where will you go?" "I found a nice condo, closer to the office. It'll be perfect." The condo was nice. Smaller than the house, certainly, but comfortable. I'd furnished it carefully, choosing each piece with intention. A reading chair by the window. A drafting table where I could sketch in the evenings. Photos of Danny on every surface, school pictures, graduation, his first day at Columbia. He never asked how I afforded it. The tuition. The rent for his apartment in Manhattan. The stipend I sent each month for books and food. I'd taught him to be independent. To work hard. To appreciate what he had. But I'd never taught him to ask questions. Maybe that was my mistake. The music changed. Pachelbel's canon. Everyone stood. Tori appeared at the back of the room, a vision in ivory silk and Belgian lace. Her father walked beside her, beaming. Patricia dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief, though I doubted any real tears fell. I stood with everyone else, clutching my purse, the envelope inside, pressing against my ribs. Tori glided past my row without a glance. The ceremony was beautiful. The officiant spoke about love and commitment. Danny and Tori exchanged vows they'd written themselves poetic, full of promises about building a life together. "I promise to be your partner," Danny said, his voice steady, "in every dream we chase and every challenge we face." Tori smiled. "I promise to stand beside you, to lift you up, to create a home filled with love and laughter." They kissed. Everyone applauded. I clapped too, even as something cold settled in my chest. Chapter 2. The toast that changed everything. The reception was louder. Music thumped from speakers hidden behind floral arrangements. Guests laughed and clinked glasses. The champagne flowed freely. Dom Perignon, I recognized the bottles from when I'd approved that line item 6 months ago. I found my seat at a table near the back. Table 19, according to the little card with calligraphy so fancy I could barely read it. My table mates were strangers. Friends of the Ashfords, I gathered from their conversation. They were polite, asked me how I knew the couple. "I'm Danny's mother," I said. "Oh," one woman dripping in diamonds brightened. "How wonderful Patricia has told us so much about planning this wedding. She has such exquisite taste." "Yes," I said. "She does." The dinner was excellent. Filet mignon, roasted vegetables, some kind of risotto that melted on the tongue. The cake was even better, hazelnut with dark chocolate ganache. I'd chosen the flavors myself, actually. The wedding planner had sent me samples, and I'd sat at my kitchen table with Geraldine tasting each one. "This one," I'd said, pointing to the hazelnut. "Danny loved Nutella as a kid. He'd eat it straight from the jar." Geraldine had smiled. "He's lucky to have you." "He doesn't know he has me. Not really. He'll figure it out." But sitting there in row 19 watching Danny laugh with Tori's family, I wasn't so sure. After dinner, the best man gave a speech. Something funny about Danny in law school pulling all-nighters before exams. Then Tori's father stood up, his voice booming across the room. "I remember the day Tori brought Danny home," he said. "I thought, now here's a young man with drive, with ambition." And I was right. Welcome to the family son. Applause. Cheers. Danny grinned, shaking his new father-in-law's hand. Then Patricia stood. Of course she did. "I won't take up too much of your time," she said, though her smile suggested otherwise. "I just want to say how blessed we are to welcome Danny into our family. This wedding," she gestured around the room at the flowers, the lights, the sheer opulence of it all. "This is everything we dreamed of for our daughter, and I'm so grateful we could give them this perfect day." She didn't mention me. Not once. More applause. Patricia sat down, glowing with satisfaction. Then Danny stood. My heart lifted. Maybe now. Maybe he'd say something. Acknowledge me. Not for credit, just recognition. A thank you for being there, for showing up, for 3 decades of showing up. "Wow," Danny said into the microphone. His cheeks were flushed, the champagne probably. He'd always been a lightweight. "What a day, right, Tori? You look absolutely stunning." She blew him a kiss. "I want to thank everyone who made this possible." He raised his glass toward the Ashford table. "Patricia Richard, thank you for welcoming me into your family. And for this incredible wedding. Seriously, this is beyond anything I could have imagined." He paused, took a sip of champagne. "You know my mom's here somewhere." He squinted toward the back of the room. I raised my hand slightly, but the lights were too bright. He couldn't see me. "She couldn't really contribute much to the wedding. Different financial situations, you understand. But that's okay." Laughter rippled through the crowd. Uncomfortable at first, then more confident as others joined in. "Patricia paid for everything, the venue, the flowers, my tux, even the cake. My mom," he grinned, shaking his head. "She didn't even buy a flower. But hey, that's mom for you. Never been the show-up type anyway." The room erupted in laughter. Patricia stood accepting a standing ovation like she'd just won an Oscar. I sat perfectly still. The thing about shock is that it doesn't hit you all at once. It starts small, a tightening in your chest, a coldness in your fingers. Then it spreads slow as spilled wine soaking into everything until you're drowning in it. My hands were shaking. I pressed them flat against my thighs under the table where no one could see. Never been the show-up type. I thought about the night Danny had pneumonia when he was 6, how I'd sat beside his hospital bed for 72 hours straight, sleeping in a chair that left permanent knots in my back. I thought about every school play, every soccer game in the rain, every college visit where I drove 8 hours through traffic so he could see campuses. I thought about selling my house, working 3 jobs, eating ramen for dinner so he could have proper meals. Didn't even buy a flower. The envelope in my purse felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Danny sat down laughing with Tori, who whispered something in his ear that made him laugh harder. The diamond woman at my table leaned over. "Don't take it personally, dear. You know how young people are. They don't think before they speak." I nodded, smiled, said something appropriate, though I couldn't remember what. The rest of the reception blurred. Music played, people danced. Danny and Tori cut the cake, the one I'd chosen, and fed each other bites while cameras flashed. I waited until the lights dimmed for the first dance. Then I stood, picked up my purse, and walked out. No one noticed. Chapter 3, The Folder. My hotel room was on the 4th floor, small but clean with a view of the parking lot. I'd booked it myself, paid for it myself. I'd wanted to stay somewhere modest. Hadn't wanted to make assumptions about being included in the family suite the Ashfords had reserved. Turned out my instincts were right. I sat on the edge of the bed, still in my dress, still wearing my mother's pearls. The envelope sat beside me. I didn't open it right away. Instead, I made tea with the little kettle the hotel provided. Earl Grey, because that's what they had. I drank it slowly, staring at the blank wall, trying to understand what I was feeling. Hurt, certainly. That was obvious. But underneath the hurt was something sharper. Something that felt like anger, except colder. More clarifying. I'd spent 32 years showing up, and my son had just told 200 people I never did. I opened the envelope. The first document was the deed to the penthouse. 2 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. I'd bought it 6 months ago, right after Danny announced his engagement. Used the profits from selling 2 of my commercial properties. It was supposed to be a wedding gift. A surprise for tomorrow morning when I'd planned to have breakfast with Danny and Tori before they left for their honeymoon. I'd imagined Danny's face when I handed him the keys. Imagined him hugging me, maybe crying a little, saying thank you, saying he understood everything I'd done for him. The second document was even more important. Transfer papers for 35% of my company Coleman Design Associates, worth approximately $5 million. I'd built that company from nothing. Every client, every project, every sleepless night had gone into making it what it was. I'd wanted Danny to have it. Not all of it I wasn't ready to retire completely, but enough that he'd have real security. Enough that he could leave corporate law if he wanted to pursue something he actually cared about. Though lately I wasn't sure what he cared about besides impressing the Ashfords. The third document made my hands still. It was a printout of emails between Patricia Ashford and the wedding planner. Geraldine had sent them to me 3 months ago. "You should see these," she'd said over the phone. "I'm sorry, Margaret, but you should know. From Patricia, Ashford at Ashford Group. Com to elegantevents@gmail.com. Subject credit arrangements. Please ensure all vendor invoices and credits list the Ashford family as the primary contributors. The groom's mother, well, let's keep her involvement minimal. We want to maintain a certain standard in how this wedding is presented. From elegantevents@gmail.com to patricia.ashford@Ashford Group. Credit arrangements understood. All public-facing materials will credit the Ashford family. The anonymous trust payments will be processed discreetly. From Patricia Ashford at Ashford Group. Com to elegantevents@gmail.com. Perfect. After all, we're the ones coordinating everything. The other party is just funding. There's a difference. I'd read those emails a dozen times. Each time I told myself it didn't matter, that I'd wanted to remain anonymous anyway, that pride was a sin for a reason. But now, sitting in this hotel room hearing Danny's words echo in my head, didn't even buy a flower. I understood something I'd been avoiding. Patricia hadn't just taken credit. She'd erased me, and Danny had let her. My phone buzzed. A text from Danny. "Danny, Mom, where'd you go? People want to meet you." I stared at the message. Typed and deleted 3 responses before settling on me not feeling well. Heading to bed. Congratulations again. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Danny. "Oh, okay. Feel better. Love you." I set the phone down. Picked it up again. Called Geraldine. She answered on the second ring despite it being nearly 11 o'clock. "Margaret, I need you to activate the dissolution clause," I said. My voice was steady, calm. "Everything. The penthouse deed, the company shares all of it." Silence. Then, "Are you sure?" He told 200 people I didn't even buy a flower, Geraldine. Patricia took credit for every penny I spent. And he believed her. He believed I didn't show up. "He's your son. And I'm his mother. But apparently that doesn't mean what I thought it meant." More silence. I could hear Geraldine breathing, thinking. "It'll take about a week to process everything," she finally said. "The penthouse sale will need whatever it takes. Just do it." "Margaret," her voice was gentle, "once you start this, it'll be hard to undo. You might want to sleep on it." "I've been sleeping on it for 32 years, I said. "I'm done." After I hung up, I sat in the dark for a long time. The thing about being a mother is that you spend your whole life building someone up. You sacrifice and save and show up, and you tell yourself it's worth it. That one day they'll understand. They'll appreciate what you did. But what if they never ask? What if they just assume you did nothing? What if they stand in front of 200 people and laugh about how you never showed up? I took off my mother's pearls, laid them carefully on the nightstand. Tomorrow I'd drive back to Richmond, back to my modest condo with its view of the parking lot, back to my quiet life that apparently no one noticed or cared about. But tonight I was done being invisible. Chapter 4. The Woman Who Built Everything, I didn't sleep well. Around 3 in the morning, I gave up and made more tea sitting by the window and watching the empty parking lot. Dawn came slowly, gray and reluctant. I packed my small overnight bag dressed in comfortable clothes for the drive home. Before leaving, I took one last look at the documents spread across the hotel desk. The penthouse deed, the company shares, the emails from Patricia. I left the penthouse deed and company papers on the desk. Let the hotel staff find them when they cleaned the room. They were worthless now anyway. I'd already initiated the dissolution process. But the emails I kept. The drive back to Richmond took 4 hours. I stopped once for coffee at a gas station off I-95. The barista was young, maybe 19, with purple hair and tired eyes. "Rough night?" she asked, handing me my cup. "Long weekend," I said. "Tell me about it." She yawned. "I've been working doubles all week, saving up for community college." I looked at her, really looked. Saw myself at that age exhausted and determined, waiting tables and dreaming of something better. "What are you planning to study?" I asked. "Interior design. Maybe I like making spaces feel good, you know? Like comfortable." I pulled out my business card. Coleman Design Associates, embossed in silver letters. "Call my office on Monday. Ask for Sophia in HR. Tell her Margaret Coleman said to set up an interview for our junior design internship. It's paid." The girl stared at the card like I'd handed her a winning lottery ticket. Seriously, we're always looking for people who understand that design is about more than just aesthetics. It's about making people feel at home. I paid for my coffee and left feeling lighter than I had in hours. The rest of the drive, I let my mind wander through memories. I'd taken this same route 20 years ago, right after Robert died. Danny had been in the passenger seat, silent and small, staring out the window. We'd just come from the lawyer's office where Robert's family had tried to take everything. "Are we going to be okay?" He'd asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," I'd told him. "We're going to be better than okay." I'd meant it, and I'd made it true. By the time I pulled into my condo complex in Richmond, it was late morning. The sun had burned through the clouds, leaving everything bright and sharp. My condo was on the second floor of a quiet building near the river. Nothing fancy. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, a small kitchen with barely enough counter space. But it was mine, and I'd made it beautiful. The walls were gallery white, hung with architectural drawings and photographs I'd taken over the years. The furniture was simple, but well made. A comfortable couch, a reading chair. I'd reupholstered myself a dining table that had been Robert's grandmother's. Every surface held photos of Danny. Him as a baby, round-faced and laughing. Him at 7, missing those 2 front teeth. Him at 14, trying to look tough after his father died, but still so obviously a child. Him at 18, grinning and his Columbia acceptance letter in hand. Him at 25, brand new law degree, so proud and bright. I stood in my living room looking at those photos and felt something crack open in my chest. Never been the show-up type. My phone rang. Danny. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again and again. On the 4th call, I answered. "Mom!" Danny sounded frantic. "Where are you? I went by your hotel this morning to have breakfast before our flight, but you'd already checked out. Are you okay?" "I'm home," I said. "Home in Richmond. But I thought we were supposed to have breakfast. I wanted to, Mom, about last night. Some people said my speech was maybe a little, I don't know, insensitive, but I was just joking around. You know I didn't mean anything by it." "Didn't you?" Silence. "Then what's that supposed to mean?" "Did you know I paid for your wedding, Daniel?" More silence. Longer this time. "What number Patricia said her family, I paid for everything. The venue, the catering, the flowers, the cake, your tuxedo, all of it. $280,000 from the trust fund your father left. The one I've been carefully growing for 30 years. "Mom, that's not Patricia said." Patricia knew exactly where the money came from. She arranged with the wedding planner to take credit for everything while keeping my involvement minimal. I have the emails. I could hear him breathing. Fast, confused. "Why didn't you tell me?" he finally asked. "Why didn't you ask? That's not fair. How was I supposed to know?" "You weren't supposed to know, Daniel. That was the point. I didn't want credit. I just wanted to give you something beautiful. Something that said I was proud of you and happy for you." My voice cracked. "But then you stood in front of 200 people and told them I didn't even buy a flower. You said I never showed up." "I was joking. It was wedding humor, Mom. Everyone was laughing." I'm glad everyone had a good time. I walked to my window, looked out at the river. There's a letter waiting for you at James Brennan's office. He's my lawyer. Call him Monday morning. What letter, Mom? What's going on? I gave you everything, Daniel. I sold our house to send you to Columbia. I worked 80-hour weeks so you'd have everything you needed. I built a company from nothing so you'd have something to inherit. And you thought I couldn't even contribute to your wedding. You thought I was the kind of mother who didn't show up. That's not The penthouse I was going to give you, I'm selling it. The company shares liquidating them. Everything I had planned for your future is going into a foundation. For women like me who have to build something from nothing because no one's coming to save them. You can't be serious. Call James on Monday. He'll explain everything. I hung up. The phone rang immediately. I turned it off. Then I sat down in my reading chair, pulled a blanket over my lap, and cried for the first time since Robert died. Not because I was sad, though I was, but because I was free. To be continued. What would you do if you were in Margaret's place? Have you ever been underestimated by someone you loved? Comment below and let me know where you're watching from.
Down.
Chapter 5. The letter, Monday morning, arrived cold and gray. I woke at 6, made coffee, and sat at my kitchen table watching the sun struggle through heavy clouds. My phone, I'd turned it back on Sunday evening, showed 43 missed calls. 27 from Danny. 8 from a number I didn't recognize but suspected was Tori. 5 from Patricia Ashford's cell phone. 3 from Danny's new father-in-law, Richard. There were text messages, too. I scrolled through them without reading most. Danny, Saturday, 11:47 p.m. Mom, please call me back, Danny. Sunday, 8:23 a.m. This is crazy. We need to talk, Danny. Sunday, 2:15 p.m. I'm sorry about the speech. Okay, but you can't just sell everything because you're mad. Tori, Sunday, 4:30 p.m. Margaret. This is Tori. Danny is very upset. I think we should all sit down and discuss this rationally. Patricia, Sunday, 6:45 p.m. Margaret, dear, I'm sure this is all a misunderstanding. Let's have lunch this week. I deleted them all except Danny's. Those I kept, though I wasn't sure why. Evidence, maybe, or punishment. At 8 o'clock, I called James Brennan's office. His secretary, Linda, answered on the second ring. Brennan and Associates, how may I help you? Linda, it's Margaret Coleman. Is James in yet? Oh, Mrs. Coleman, yes, he just arrived. Let me transfer you. A click then, James's voice warm and steady. Margaret, I was hoping you'd call. How are you holding up? James Brennan had been my lawyer for 12 years. He'd handled my business contracts, the sale of my properties, Robert's estate issues with his family. He was 45, widowed 3 years ago when his wife died from ovarian cancer. We'd bonded over coffee one afternoon after a particularly difficult negotiation, sharing stories about loss and learning to live with it. He understood grief in a way most people didn't. I'm managing, I said. Did you prepare the letter? It's ready. 4 pages, just as you outlined. Margaret, are you absolutely certain about this? Once Daniel reads it. He needs to read it, James. He needs to understand what he threw away. A pause. I could hear him tapping his pen against his desk, a habit when he was thinking. He called here this morning, James said quietly. 3 times before we even opened. He sounds desperate. Good. Margaret, I spent 32 years being soft James, being understanding, being the mother who never asked for anything in return, and my son stood in front of 200 people and said I never showed up. My voice hardened. So yes, I'm certain. All right, he said. I'll call him, set up an appointment for this afternoon. Will you be here? No, I don't want to see him yet. Just give him the letter and the documents. Let him process it alone. You're giving him a lot to process. He gave me a lot to process, too. After we hung up, I sat for a long time staring at my coffee. It had gone cold. I dumped it in the sink and made fresh. The thing about making hard decisions is that you second-guess yourself constantly. Every minute, every hour, a voice whispers, maybe you're overreacting. Maybe you should forgive him. He's your son. He's all you have. But then I remembered his face in that moment. The careless grin. The way he'd shrugged like my absence from his life was just a funny quirk. Something to laugh about. Never been the show-up type. My phone rang. Danny, again. This time I answered. Mom? His voice was ragged, exhausted. Thank God. I've been calling for 2 days. I know. Then why didn't you answer? Because I had nothing to say that you'd hear. Not yet. That's not Mom, please. Just talk to me. Tell me what's happening. James Brennan's secretary called, said I need to come to his office this afternoon. What's going on? There's a letter waiting for you. Read it. Then if you still want to talk, we'll talk. Can't you just tell me now I'm going crazy here? Tori's family thinks you're having some kind of breakdown. And honestly, I'm starting to wonder, a breakdown? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. That's what they think. You're selling the penthouse you were going to give us liquidating company shares, Mom. That's insane. That's your life's work. It was going to be your life's work. You're right about that. Past tense. Why are you doing this? Read the letter, Daniel. Stop calling me Daniel. You only do that when you're really mad. Read the letter. I hung up again. Turned off the phone completely this time. Then I got dressed, grabbed my car keys, and drove to the one place that had always made sense to me, my office. Chapter 6, The Call. Coleman Design Associates occupied the third floor of a converted tobacco warehouse in Richmond's Arts District. Exposed brick walls, floor-to-ceiling windows, open workspace dotted with drafting tables and computer stations. We'd been here for 8 years, and I loved every inch of it. I'd built this company with my bare hands. Every client relationship, every project, every late-night problem-solving had shaped it into something I was proud of, and I'd wanted Danny to have it. My office was in the back corner, glass-walled, so I could see the whole floor, but with blinds I could close when I needed privacy. This morning I closed them. Sophia Martinez, my office manager, knocked softly before entering. She was 28, brilliant and fiercely loyal. I'd hired her right out of college when no one else would take a chance on a girl from the wrong side of Richmond with a community college degree. "Morning, Margaret," she said, setting a fresh cup of coffee on my desk. "You okay? You look tired." I was going to say ready to commit murder, but tired works too. Despite everything, I smiled. "Long weekend." "The wedding was Saturday, right? How'd it go?" I took a sip of coffee. Considered lying. Decided I was done with that. My son told 200 people I never showed up for him. Then I found out his new mother-in-law took credit for the wedding I secretly paid for. So I'm liquidating everything I'd planned to leave him and starting a foundation for single mothers instead. Sophia's eyes widened. Then slowly she grinned. "Damn, Margaret. That's the most badass thing I've ever heard." "Is it? Or is it petty and vindictive? Can it be both?" She sat down across from me. "Look, I don't know your son, but I know you, and you don't do anything without a good reason. So if you're doing this, he deserved it. He's my son, Sophia. I should be better than this. Better than what having boundaries, expecting respect." She leaned forward. "My mom worked 3 jobs to raise me and my brothers after my dad left. You know what my oldest brother did? Moved to California and didn't call for 5 years. When he finally showed up, he asked her for money, said she owed him for not having a dad growing up. What did she do? Told him to get the hell out of her house and come back when he learned some gratitude." Sophia shrugged. "He came back 2 years later with his tail between his legs. Apologized. They're good now, but she had to draw that line." "You think I'm drawing a line?" "I think you're teaching him a lesson his wife's family never did. That people aren't ATMs, that love requires more than just showing up for the good parts." Before I could respond, my desk phone rang. Internal line. Reception. "Margaret," our receptionist said, "there's a young man here asking for you. Says his name is Daniel Coleman. Your son." My stomach tightened. "What's he doing here?" "He says he needs to talk to you. He's pretty upset. Should I? I'll come out." I stood, smoothed my skirt, and walked to the reception area. Danny was pacing near the windows. He'd clearly driven straight from New York, still wearing yesterday's clothes, wrinkled and coffee-stained. His hair was a mess. He had dark circles under his eyes. When he saw me, he stopped mid-stride. "Mom, you're supposed to be at James's office. I couldn't wait. I had to see you first. I had to—" He ran his hands through his hair. "Please, can we talk somewhere private?" I glanced around. My entire staff was pretending not to stare while obviously staring. "Conference room B," I said. 5 minutes. I didn't wait to see if he followed. The conference room was small, windowless, designed for intimate client meetings. Danny closed the door behind us and immediately started talking. "I'm sorry. God, Mom, I'm so sorry. The speech was stupid and thoughtless, and I was drunk and trying to be funny. Were you lying? He stopped. What, when you said I never showed up, when you said I couldn't contribute, were you lying or did you really believe it? His mouth opened, closed. Patricia said her family was paying for everything. She said you'd offered to help, but that you were on a fixed income and you believed her. Why wouldn't I? She was coordinating everything, making all the decisions. Because she erased me, Daniel. She knew exactly where the money was coming from and she deliberately took credit for it. I pulled out my phone, opened the email screenshots I'd saved and handed it to him. Read, he read. With each line, his face went paler. Oh my God, he whispered. Patricia knew. She knew, and your wife knew too. There's another email from 3 months before the wedding. Tori asking her mother to make sure I stayed in the background, because she didn't want people thinking the Ashfords couldn't afford the wedding themselves. No, Tori wouldn't. Read the rest. He scrolled. I watched his hands start to shake. They lied to me, he said finally. They both lied. Yes, but you believed them so easily, Daniel. You believed I was the kind of mother who'd skip her son's wedding, who wouldn't contribute a single flower. You believed that because it was easier than asking questions. That's not fair. Isn't it? My voice rose louder than I intended. When was the last time you asked about my life? My business? When did you last visit without Tori? When did you last call just to talk, not because you needed something? He flinched. I've been busy. Law firm planning the wedding. I sold our house to send you to Colombia. The words hung in the air between us. What? His voice was barely audible. The house your father and I bought when we got married. The house you grew up in. The house his family tried to take after he died and I fought to keep. I sold it to pay your tuition. All of it. Every penny went to your education. You said you were downsizing. I lied, because I didn't want you to feel guilty. I wanted you to focus on your studies to become the lawyer I knew you could be. I wanted you to have opportunities I never had. Danny sank into a chair, put his head in his hands. The condo I live in now, I continued. It's 800 square feet, 1 bedroom. I sleep on a pull-out couch because I converted the bedroom into a home office. I drive a 10-year-old Honda. I buy my clothes at outlet malls. Not because I'm poor, my company does very well, but because I've spent the last 20 years saving everything I could to build something for you. Mom, the penthouse was supposed to be your wedding gift. $3.2 million. 2 bedrooms, 2.5 baths overlooking Central Park. I bought it 6 months ago. Was going to give you the keys Sunday morning over breakfast. The breakfast you didn't show up for because you were too busy enjoying your honeymoon suite. He was crying now, quietly, his shoulders shaking. The company shares 35% ownership of Coleman Design, worth about $5 million. I was going to transfer them after you'd been married a year once you'd settled into your life together. I wanted you to have security, freedom, the ability to choose your own path instead of being trapped by money. I didn't know, he sobbed. God, Mom, I didn't know any of this. That's the problem, baby. I sat down next to him, but I didn't touch him. Not yet. You never asked. You just assumed. And when people told you I was worthless, you believed them. We sat in silence for a long time, Danny crying, me watching him, feeling my heart break and harden simultaneously. Finally, he looked up. His eyes were red swollen. What happens now? Now you go to James's office. You read the letter I wrote, and then you decide what kind of man you want to be. Can I read it here with you? I considered, then shook my head. No, you need to read it alone. Process it alone. This isn't something I can walk you through. You're 32 years old, Daniel. It's time you learn to sit with uncomfortable truths. He nodded slowly, wiped his face with his sleeve like he used to do when he was small. I love you, Mom, he whispered. I know. I love you too. But love isn't enough anymore. You need to understand what you had, what you lost, what you threw away because you were too busy trying to impress people who will never respect you the way I did. Did past tense. I stood, walked to the door. Read the letter, then we'll see. Chapter 7, The Ashford Response. I stayed at the office until 7 that evening, throwing myself into work. We had 3 projects in development, a community center conversion, a residential loft renovation, and a new restaurant design. I reviewed plans, marked up sketches, sent emails to contractors. Sophia stuck her head in around 6. You planning to sleep here? Thinking about it. Want company? I've got leftover Thai food and a bottle of wine in my car. I smiled. Rain check, I think I need to be alone tonight. You sure? Because the intern Grapevine says your son sat in the parking lot for 2 hours after you talked. Just sitting there in his car. My heart clenched. Is he still there? He left around 4, but Margaret, he looked wrecked. Good, I said. Then softer, he should be. When I finally got home exhausted and wrung out, there was a package on my doorstep. Not a large package, just a padded envelope with my name written in Tori's perfect cursive. I picked it up carefully like it might explode. Inside was a letter, handwritten on expensive stationery embossed with Victoria Ashford Coleman at the top. Dear Margaret, Daniel has told me about your conversation today. While I understand you're upset about the wedding speech, I think your reaction is extremely disproportionate and frankly manipulative. My family has worked very hard to build our reputation and standing in the community. When Daniel married into the Ashford family, he became part of that legacy. It's natural that we would want to present ourselves in a certain light. The fact that you secretly paid for the wedding while allowing my parents to take credit is bizarre and passive-aggressive. If you wanted recognition, you should have said something instead of playing games. As for threatening to disinherit Daniel, that's emotional blackmail. You're trying to control him by dangling money over his head. That's not love. That's manipulation. I hope you'll reconsider these rash decisions. Daniel deserves better than a mother who makes everything about herself. Respectfully, Victoria. I read it twice, then 3 times. Then I laughed. It started as a small chuckle, but it built into something bigger, louder, until I was sitting on my couch laughing so hard tears streamed down my face. Manipulative, passive-aggressive, emotional blackmail. This girl, this privileged, entitled child who'd never worked a day in her life, was calling me manipulative. I pulled out my phone, composed a reply email. Kept it short. Dear Victoria, you're absolutely right. I was manipulative. I manipulated money I earned through decades of hard work into paying for your wedding, while you and your mother manipulated everyone into believing you paid for it. The difference: I was trying to give my son a gift. You were trying to steal credit. You want to talk about what Daniel deserves. He deserves a wife who doesn't hide his mother in the back row, who doesn't edit her out of wedding photos, who doesn't send passive-aggressive letters instead of having an honest conversation. But he chose you, so you're his problem now, not mine. Respectfully, Margaret. I hovered over the send button. Didn't press it. Instead, I saved it as a draft. Maybe I'd send it later. Maybe I wouldn't. Sophia was right. The real power was in the silence. My phone rang. Patricia Ashford. This time I answered. Margaret. Her voice was syrupy sweet. Finally, I've been trying to reach you all week. I'm busy, Patricia. What do you want, Well, that's rather rude. I'm calling because I'm concerned. Tori told me about your threats regarding Daniel's inheritance. Surely you don't mean to follow through with something so drastic. I do. A pause. When she spoke again, the sweetness had curdled. Don't be ridiculous. You're upset about this wedding speech, I understand, but you're being childish. Am I? Yes. Daniel made a silly joke. Everyone laughed. It's done. Move on. He told 200 people I never showed up for him, Patricia, after I paid $280,000 for a wedding you took credit for. Oh, please. She actually scoffed. You chose to pay anonymously. You can't be upset now that no one knew. I chose anonymity because I wanted to give my son a gift without strings. You knew where the money came from. You deliberately erased me. I have the emails. Silence. Long enough that I thought she might have hung up. Those emails were private, she finally said, her voice tight. Those emails were evidence that you're a liar and a thief. How dare you? How dare you? My voice was steel. You stood in front of everyone and accepted applause for money you didn't spend. You made sure my name wasn't in the program, that my seat was in the back, that I was invisible. And when my son humiliated me, you laughed. It was a joke. Would you think it was funny if Richard stood up at Tori's wedding and said you never showed up for her, that you didn't care enough to buy a single flower? That's different. It's not different. It's the exact same thing. Except I actually was there. I was always there. For 32 years I showed up. I just did it quietly. without demanding credit or recognition. And you punished me for it. Margaret, let's be reasonable. I'm done being reasonable. I'm done being quiet. I'm done letting people like you decide my value. This is absurd. I could sue you for what? Giving away my own money. I'd love to see you try. Please, Patricia, take me to court. Let's have discovery. Let's put those emails in front of a judge. Let's have your family's reputation examined in detail. She was breathing hard now, angry. You're making a terrible mistake. The only mistake I made was trusting that my son would stand up for me. But he didn't. He chose you. So congratulations. You won. Then why are you still fighting? I'm not fighting. I'm just teaching a lesson. Eventually people learn that actions have consequences. Even rich people. Even Ashfords. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but this time it wasn't from sadness. It was adrenaline. Power. The feeling of finally saying what I should have said months ago. The phone rang again immediately. Patricia's number. I blocked it. Then I blocked Richard's number. And Tori's. If Danny wanted to reach me, he could. But his new family, they were done. Chapter 8. The truth comes out. Tuesday morning, I woke to 17 missed calls from Danny. No voicemails. Just calls one after another starting at 6 a.m. I made coffee, showered, got dressed. Didn't call him back. At 9, James Brennan called. He read the letter, James said without preamble. And he sat in my office and cried for 45 minutes. Margaret, I've never seen a grown man fall apart like that. He kept saying I didn't know, over and over. What else? He wants to see you. He asked if I could arrange a meeting. Not yet. Margaret, did you give him all the documents? Yes. The itemized list of expenses since Robert died, the appraisal reports for the penthouse and company shares, the copy of Robert's will, the hospital photo. James paused. That photo was particularly effective. He couldn't stop staring at it. The photo. Me at 30, swollen-eyed and exhausted, holding newborn Danny in a flannel blanket. The only photo from the hospital because we couldn't afford to hire a photographer. A nurse had taken it with a disposable camera. I looked wrecked in that photo. 17 hours of labor. Emergency C-section. But I was smiling. Because despite everything, despite being terrified and overwhelmed and so tired, I was happy. I'd had Danny, and nothing else mattered. He also found something you didn't mention, James continued. What did the bank rejection letter from last year? My stomach dropped. You told him about that, James asked carefully. No, I didn't think he needed to know. Last year, Danny had tried to take out a personal loan, $300,000 to buy into a partnership at his law firm. The bank had contacted me because he'd listed himself as part owner of Coleman Design Associates on his application. He'd lied, put down that he owned 35% when I'd never transferred anything. The bank had called to verify. I told them the truth, he owned nothing, and they'd denied his loan. I'd never mentioned it to Danny. Figured he'd been embarrassed enough without me rubbing it in. He's claiming he didn't know that wasn't allowed, James said. Said his father-in-law told him it was fine to list family assets on loan applications. Richard Ashford told him to commit bank fraud. Apparently. Or Danny misunderstood. Either way, he's mortified. Says it's another example of how the Ashfords led him astray. They didn't lead him anywhere. He chose to follow. True. But Margaret, I think he's starting to understand that. The letter, the documents, the photo, it's all sinking in. He called Tori last night, from my office. Confronted her about the emails. How do you know? Because I could hear her screaming through the phone. Something about him being ungrateful and choosing his mother over his wife. Despite everything, I felt a small spark of satisfaction. What did he say? He told her his mother was right, that they'd erased you, and he'd let them. Then he asked if she'd known about Patricia's emails with the wedding planner. And she hung up on him. I sipped my coffee. Let that information settle. He's staying at a hotel in Brooklyn, James continued. Said he can't go back to the penthouse right now. Margaret, I know you're angry. You have every right to be. But he's your son, and I think he's genuinely trying to understand what he did wrong. Understanding isn't enough. I know, but it's a start. After we hung up, I sat at my kitchen table for a long time. The thing about anger is that it's exhausting. You can only maintain it for so long before it starts eating you from the inside. I wasn't ready to forgive Danny. Wasn't sure I ever would be completely. but I was tired of being angry. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Unknown. Hi, Mrs. Coleman. This is Emma Chen. You gave me your business card at the gas station on Saturday. I called your office and they set up an interview for Thursday. I just wanted to say thank you. This could change my life. I smiled. Typed back, you're welcome. See you Thursday. And Emma, it's Margaret, not Mrs. Coleman. Emma Margaret. Got it. Thank you so much. That small exchange, 30 seconds of texting, made me feel better than anything had all week. Maybe that was the answer. Not revenge, not even justice exactly, just building something better, helping people who actually needed it. I opened my laptop, pulled up the documents Geraldine had sent about the foundation. Margaret Coleman Foundation for Women's Economic Empowerment. $5 million. Scholarships for single mothers going back to school. Grants for women starting businesses. Paid internships in architecture and design. Everything I'd wanted to give Danny, I'd give to women like Emma instead. Women who'd appreciate it. Who'd use it to build something meaningful. My phone rang. Danny. Again. This time I answered. Mom. His voice was rough, raw. Please don't hang up. I'm listening. I read everything. The letter, the documents, the photo. He choked on the last word. I didn't know about any of it. The house, the tuition, the money you've been setting aside, Mom. Why didn't you tell me? Because I wanted you to be free, Daniel. Free from guilt. Free from obligation. Free to become whoever you wanted to be without feeling like you owed me. But I do owe you. I owe you everything. You don't owe me anything. That's not how love works. But you could have appreciated it. You could have seen it. How was I supposed to see it if you hid it? I didn't hide it. I just didn't advertise it. There's a difference. And if you'd ever really asked about my life, about my business, about how I was doing, you would have known. Silence. Then, you're right. I never asked. I just assumed you were fine, that you had everything under control, that you didn't need anything from me. I didn't need anything from you, except respect and acknowledgement, and for you to defend me when your wife's family tried to erase me. I'm sorry. He was crying again. God, Mom, I'm so sorry. I was an idiot, a selfish, blind idiot who took you for granted and let Tori's family manipulate me, and I'm so sorry. I know you are. Can I see you? Please, I'll drive down to Richmond right now. We can figure this out. No. Mom, not yet, Daniel. You need time to sit with this, to really understand what you did, what you lost. And I need time to decide if I can forgive you. Do you think you can eventually... I looked at the photo of him on my refrigerator. Age 7, missing teeth, holding up a crayon drawing. I don't know, I said honestly. I hope so. But right now I need to focus on myself, on building something that matters, something that won't take me for granted. The foundation. Yes. That's actually beautiful, Mom. Using the money to help other women. Dad would have loved that. Your father, I said quietly, would have been heartbroken by what you said at that wedding. He spent his whole life building you up, teaching you to be kind and generous and thoughtful, and you threw it all away for a laugh. I know. His voice broke completely. I know, and I hate myself for it. Don't hate yourself, just be better. That's not for me to figure out, baby. That's your journey. We stayed on the phone for another minute, not talking, just breathing, connected by silence and pain and the thin thread of love that hadn't quite broken. Finally, I said, I have to go. I have a meeting. Okay, can I call you again? In a few days. Give us both time. I love you, Mom. I love you too. After I hung up, I cried. Not the angry tears from before, softer ones, sadder ones, the tears of a mother watching her child grow up, even if the lesson came too late. Chapter 9, The Auction. 3 weeks passed. I threw myself into work. Hired Emma Chen as a junior design intern. She was brilliant, hungry, creative in ways that reminded me of myself at that age. Started the preliminary paperwork for the foundation. Met with Geraldine twice a week to discuss investment strategies and scholarship criteria. The penthouse went on the market. James handled everything listing staging showings. I didn't want to be involved. Danny called every few days. Short conversations, awkward but genuine. He'd moved out of the Plaza penthouse Tori's parents had gifted them, was staying in a small apartment in Brooklyn, paying his own rent for the first time in his adult life. "It's weird," he told me during one call. "Buying my own groceries, doing laundry. I never realized how much I'd been coasting. How's Tori handling it?" A pause. "Not well. She's staying with her parents. Says I'm choosing you over her." "Are you?" "I'm choosing honesty over lies. If she can't understand that, then maybe we're not right for each other." I didn't say anything. Whatever happened between Danny and Tori was their business. I'd said my piece. The auction was scheduled for a Saturday afternoon. James had suggested I stay away, but I found myself driving into Manhattan that morning anyway. I parked 3 blocks from the building and walked slowly, watching the city wake up around me. The penthouse building was beautiful. Pre-war architecture recently renovated. Doormen, marble lobby, everything classy and elegant. I'd chosen it so carefully. Imagine Danny and Tori here. Maybe kids eventually. Sunday morning pancakes, holiday dinners. Now I'd never see the inside again. The auction started at 2. I stood across the street, hidden behind a food cart, watching people arrive. Wealthy couples, real estate investors. A few faces I recognized from society pages. Patricia and Richard Ashford arrived at 2:15 in a black Mercedes. Patricia wore Chanel. Richard had his phone glued to his ear. They were going to bid. Of course they were. Danny arrived at 2:20, alone. He looked thinner, tired. He stood on the sidewalk for a moment, staring up at the building, then went inside. I stayed outside. Through the window, I could see the auction room, could see the auctioneer, the prospective buyers, the Ashfords sitting in front row. The bidding started at $3 million. Within 5 minutes, it had climbed to 3.5. Richard Ashford raised his paddle. 3.7. A young couple, maybe late 20s, bid 3.9. Richard, $4 million. The young couple looked at each other. The woman's hand moved to her stomach. Pregnant, I realized. They shook their heads. Out. 4 million going once, twice. A new voice. A man in the back raising his paddle. 4.1 million. Richard turned annoyed. Bid again. 4.2. The man in back, 4.3. This went on for 10 minutes. Richard getting increasingly red-faced. Patricia whispering urgently in his ear. Finally, at 4.7 million, Richard shook his head. Done. Sold. The auctioneer's gavel came down. To bidder 73. I watched the man in back stand up. Young, maybe 35. Professional. He shook the auctioneer's hand, signed papers. Danny approached him. I couldn't hear what they said, but I saw Danny shake the man's hand. Saw something pass between them. An envelope, maybe. 30 minutes later, Danny emerged from the building. Saw me across the street immediately, like he'd known I was there. He crossed to me slowly. "You watched?" he asked. I watched. The couple who were bidding, the pregnant woman. They reminded me of you and Dad, I think. Young hopeful trying to build something. They couldn't afford it. No, but the guy who won, he's their friend. A venture capitalist. He bought it for them. They'll pay him back over time below market rate. Danny pulled out his phone, showed me a photo. I talked to them after. They're first-time buyers. He's a teacher. She's a nurse. This was their dream home. How do you know all this? Because I asked. Because for once in my life, I paid attention to someone other than myself. He looked at me. Really looked at me. They'll take better care of it than I would have. They'll appreciate it. Like I should have appreciated you. We stood there in silence, watching the new owners emerge from the building, glowing with excitement. The Ashfords are pissed, Danny said. Patricia wanted to buy it, flip it, make a profit. Now she's spinning it as we let them have it out of charity. Of course she is. I'm filing for divorce, Mom. I turned to him, startled. What? I can't stay married to someone who lied to me about you, who helped her family erase you. Who cares more about reputation than truth? He shoved his hands in his pockets. It's going to be ugly. The Ashfords don't do anything quietly, but I need to do this. Are you sure? Are you kidding? After everything I've learned these past few weeks, he laughed bitterly. Tori's parents have been telling people you're mentally ill, that you're manipulating me, that I should have you declared incompetent so I can access your assets. My blood went cold. They said that, according to their lawyer, yes. My lawyer, not the one Ashford family uses, a new one I hired myself, says they don't have a case. But they're going to try. That's who they are. I'm sorry, Daniel. Don't be. I should have seen it years ago. But I was too busy trying to fit in. To be the son-in-law they wanted. To prove I belonged in their world. He looked at me. I forgot I already belonged somewhere. With you. Chapter 10. The Shelter. 2 days later, I drove out to New Haven Women's Shelter. It was a converted church on the east side of Richmond, funded by a patchwork of grants and donations. The director, Sophia Martinez, had reached out to me a month ago about teaching a design workshop for their residents. Most of our women are transitioning from homelessness or domestic violence situations, she'd explained over coffee. They need job skills, practical things they can use to rebuild their lives. And you're one of the most respected architects in the state. Your time would mean everything. I'd meant to say no. I was too busy, too focused on my own problems. But after the wedding, after everything fell apart, I'd called her back. Is that workshop offer still available? Now I stood in a classroom on the second floor looking at 12 women ranging from 19 to 55. Some had children in the daycare downstairs. Some were alone. All of them looked at me with a mixture of hope and skepticism. I'm Margaret Coleman, I said. I own a design firm here in Richmond. But that's not why I'm here. I'm here because 30 years ago I was you. That got their attention. I was 38, newly widowed, with a 14-year-old son and about $600 in the bank. My husband's family tried to take everything. I had no college degree, no job prospects. I was waiting tables and cleaning houses just to keep food on the table. A woman in the front row, maybe 40, with graying hair, nodded slowly. I got lucky, I continued. Found a community college program. Worked 3 jobs while going to night school. Eventually built a business, but it took 15 years of 80-hour weeks and more ramen dinners than I can count. So what are you going to teach us? A younger woman, early 20s, arms crossed defensively. How to be workaholics. No, I'm going to teach you how to see potential where others see ruin. How to take something broken and reimagine it. How to design spaces that feel like home. I smiled. And maybe in the process, how to redesign your own lives. We started small. I taught them to read architectural drawings, to understand scale and proportion, to see how light changes a space, how color affects mood, how furniture placement can make a room feel welcoming or cold. But mostly I taught them to trust their instincts. Don't second-guess yourself, I told them. You've survived things most people can't imagine. That takes intelligence and creativity and strength. Those same skills work in design. The woman in the front, her name was Karen, stayed after class. Can I ask you something personal? She said. Sure. Do you have kids? A son, 32? Does he appreciate what you did raising him alone? I thought about Danny, about the wedding, about our awkward phone calls and his decision to divorce Tori. He's learning to, I said finally. It took a while, but he's learning. Karen nodded. My kids are with my ex. Court says I can't see them until I have stable housing, a job. I'm trying so hard, but they're growing up without me. I'm scared they'll forget I love them. They won't forget. And when they're older, they'll understand. You're doing this for them. That matters. Does it even if they don't know? Especially if they don't know. That's when it's most real, when you do it anyway. Chapter 11. The letter arrived 6 weeks after the wedding. A package arrived at my condo. Small, padded envelope. No return address. Just my name in Danny's handwriting. Inside was the photo album I'd brought to the wedding. The one he'd never looked at. The one with construction paper stick figures and me and Mom in uneven letters. But something was different. One corner of the cover was warped. Water-stained. Like tears had fallen there and been left to dry. And tucked inside the front page was a letter. Dear Mom, I kept this album on my nightstand for 3 weeks. Every night I'd open it and look at what I threw away, what I took for granted, what I almost lost forever. There's a drawing in here from 2nd grade. I'd written, "My mom is the strongest person in the world," under a picture of you lifting weights. I was so proud of that drawing. You hung it on the fridge for 2 years. When did I stop seeing you as strong? When did I start seeing you as Insignificant, I think it was gradual. College, then law school, then the job, and Tori and her family. Each step I moved further from who I was, who you raised me to be. I started valuing the wrong things: money, status, approval from people who don't actually care about me. I forgot that the only approval that ever really mattered was yours. I've spent the last 6 weeks trying to understand how I became this person. This ungrateful, blind, selfish person who could stand at a microphone and mock his own mother. I don't have a good answer, except that I was weak and scared and desperate to fit into a world that was never meant for people like us. I'm filing for divorce, not because you asked me to, but because I can't build a life with someone who helped erase you. Who cares more about appearances than truth? It's going to be expensive, ugly. The Ashfords are threatening to destroy my career. Maybe they will, but I'd rather be broke and honest than rich and fake. I'm not asking for your forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it. I'm not asking for the money back. That ship sailed, and rightfully so. I'm just asking for a chance. To show you I can be better. To prove I learned the lesson. I got a new job, not a big firm. Legal aid for low-income families. The pay is terrible. The hours are long. But it feels right, like I'm finally using my degree for something that matters. I'm also volunteering at a shelter in Brooklyn, teaching residents about tenant rights and helping them navigate legal systems. It's the first time in years I've felt useful, really useful, not just profitable. I think about you every day, Mom, about everything you sacrificed, everything you gave, everything I failed to see. I'm trying to see it now. I'm trying to be the son you deserved. I hope someday that will be enough. I love you. I always have. I just forgot how to show it. Danny, I read the letter 3 times. Then I sat down on my couch, held the photo album in my lap, and cried. Not angry tears this time. Not hurt tears. Healing tears. The kind that come when something broken starts to mend. Chapter 12. The foundation. 3 months after the wedding, I stood in front of a room full of strangers and told them my story. The Richmond Women's Business Association had invited me to speak at their annual fundraiser. 200 women in cocktail dresses and pearls, sipping wine and eating canapes, waiting to hear about my inspiring journey from widow to successful entrepreneur. They had no idea what they were about to hear. Good evening, I began, my voice steady despite the nerves fluttering in my stomach. My name is Margaret Coleman, and 3 months ago my son stood at his wedding reception and told 200 people that I never showed up for him. The room went silent. Glasses stopped clinking. Conversations died mid-sentence. He said I was too poor to contribute to his wedding, that I didn't even buy a single flower. He laughed when he said it. So did everyone else. I paused, let that sink in. What they didn't know, what my son didn't know, was that I had secretly paid for the entire wedding. $280,000. The venue, the catering, the flowers, the cake, his tuxedo. Everything. I'd routed the money through an anonymous trust because I wanted to give him a gift without strings attached, without needing credit or recognition. A woman in the front row gasped softly. His new mother-in-law knew where the money came from. She deliberately took credit for everything while keeping me in the background. She coordinated with the wedding planner to erase my involvement, to make me invisible. I pulled out my phone, displayed the emails on the screen behind me, Patricia's words in black and white for everyone to see. When I confronted my son, he didn't believe me at first. He thought I was making it up, being dramatic. It took showing him bank statements and contracts and a letter from my financial advisor before he understood that I was telling the truth. The room was absolutely still now. I could hear my own heartbeat. I had also planned to give him a $3.2 million penthouse as a wedding gift and 35% ownership of my company worth about $5 million. I'd spent 20 years building those gifts, saving, planning, imagining the moment I'd hand him the keys and say, "This is yours. Build your future here." A few women were crying now. I could see them dabbing at their eyes with napkins. Instead, I took it all back. I sold the penthouse, I liquidated the company shares, and I used that money to start a foundation, the Margaret Coleman Foundation for Women's Economic Empowerment. I clicked to the next slide. Images of the shelter of the women in my design class of Emma Chen sketching at a drafting table. This foundation provides scholarships for single mothers going back to school, grants for women starting businesses, Paid internships in architecture and design for women who've been told they're not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy enough. My voice caught. I took a breath, steadied myself. I'm telling you this story not for sympathy, not for applause. I'm telling you because I want you to understand something important. Your value doesn't depend on whether people see it. Your worth isn't determined by who gives you credit. You don't need validation from the people who should love you most. I looked out at the audience, saw women nodding, saw recognition in their eyes. Some of you have been erased by your families. Some of you have given everything to people who took it for granted. Some of you have been told you're not enough, that you don't matter, that you should be grateful just to be included. I'm here to tell you you are enough. You do matter. And if the people in your life can't see that, then build something so magnificent they can't ignore it. Not for them, for you. The room erupted in applause. Not polite charity event clapping. Real applause. Standing ovation. Women on their feet, some crying openly, some cheering. I stood there overwhelmed as the president of the association came to the podium and hugged me. That, she whispered in my ear, was the bravest thing I've ever heard. After the speech, I was mobbed. Women lined up to talk to me, to share their own stories, to ask about the foundation. A woman in her 50s, elegant in a black dress, gripped my hands. My daughter-in-law did the same thing to me, erased me from family events, made me feel like I was a burden. I thought I was being too sensitive. You weren't, I said firmly. You never were. Another woman younger, maybe 30. I paid for my brother's business startup, $50,000. He told everyone his wife's family funded it. When I asked him about it, he said I was making it weird by wanting credit. Take it back, I told her. Whatever you can. Don't let him benefit from your generosity while denying your existence. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I thought about it, but I felt petty. It's not petty to have boundaries. It's not petty to demand respect. The line went on for an hour, story after story of women who'd been made invisible by the people they loved most. Finally, as the event was winding down, a woman approached who'd been hanging back. She was around my age, well-dressed, but there was something brittle in her expression, something familiar. Mrs. Coleman, she said quietly. I'm Rebecca Ashford, Richard's sister. I stiffened. I'm not here to defend them, she said quickly. I'm here to apologize. I was at the wedding. I heard what Danny said, and I heard Patricia laugh. Her voice hardened. I've watched my brother and his wife do this to people for years. They're experts at taking credit while giving none, at making themselves look generous while erasing the real benefactors. Why are you telling me this? Because you're not the first person they've done this to, and you need to know they're planning something, some kind of legal action. Patricia is telling everyone you're mentally unstable, that you're manipulating Danny. She's building a case to have you declared incompetent so Danny can access your assets. Cold dread washed over me. Danny would never. Danny doesn't know. He's filed for divorce. Patricia is furious. She sees this as a personal attack on her family. And when Patricia feels attacked, she destroys people. Rebecca handed me a business card. This is my lawyer. He specializes in protecting assets from family litigation. Call him, please, before Patricia makes her move. She left before I could respond. I stood there holding her card, feeling the weight of what she'd said settle over me. They were coming for me, really coming for me, and I needed to be ready. Chapter 13. The Legal Battle. Monday morning I called Rebecca Ashford's lawyer. His name was Marcus Chen, no relation to Emma, he assured me with a laugh, and his office was in downtown Richmond in one of those old buildings that had been beautifully renovated. Exposed brick, modern furniture, walls covered with degrees and awards. Mrs. Coleman, he said, shaking my hand. Rebecca warned me you'd call. She also told me what her family is planning. I've dealt with the Ashfords before. They're formidable opponents. I'm not afraid of them. You should be. A little healthy fear keeps you sharp. He gestured to a chair. Tell me everything. Start from the wedding. I spent 2 hours walking him through it all. The speech, the emails, the penthouse and company shares, Danny's divorce filing, Patricia's threats. Marcus took notes on a legal pad, occasionally asking clarifying questions. When I finished, he sat back and studied me. You're in a stronger position than you think, he said finally. You liquidated the assets before Danny filed for divorce. That's important. It means he has no claim to them. They were yours to dispose of as you wished. But Patricia is claiming I'm mentally incompetent. She can claim whatever she wants. Proving it is different. You're running a successful business. You're starting a foundation. You gave a speech to 200 people last week that brought down the house. You're clearly in full possession of your faculties. So what can they actually do? They can make noise, file frivolous motions, try to tie up your assets in court, make your life miserable for 6 months to a year, but ultimately they'll lose. He leaned forward. The real question is, do you want to fight them, or do you want to settle quietly? What would settling look like? You could offer Danny a small trust, say $200,000, enough that he doesn't feel completely cut off, but not enough to make him dependent. In exchange, he signs a document stating that he has no further claim to your estate, and that he acknowledges the gifts you gave him, the tuition, the wedding expenses, everything. I thought about Danny, about our phone calls, about his letter and the water-stained photo album. No, I said finally. No settlement. If Patricia wants a fight, she'll get one, but not because I'm trying to punish Danny, because I need to protect the foundation. If I settle with him, it sets a precedent. Other family members could come crawling out of the woodwork making claims. I need to establish legally that I have the right to do whatever I want with my money. Marcus smiled. Good, that's the right answer. Even if it means destroying my relationship with my son. Your son is divorcing Tori. He's working at legal aid. He's volunteering at a shelter. Miss it, Coleman, if he's really changed, he'll understand why you're doing this. And if he hasn't changed, then you'll know that too. We spent the next hour going over strategy. Marcus would file a preemptive motion establishing my mental competency. We'd get statements from my doctors, my business partners, even some of the women from the shelter. We'd document everything, every email from Patricia, every threatening call, every attempt to manipulate Danny. This is going to get ugly, Marcus warned me. The Ashfords don't lose gracefully. They'll dig up everything they can about you, every mistake you've ever made, every vulnerability. Let them dig. I've got nothing to hide. Everyone has something to hide, Mrs. Coleman. The question is whether yours is worse than theirs. He was right to be cautious. Within a week, the attack started. First, an anonymous letter to the zoning board claiming my office building violated some obscure regulation. It didn't, but it took 2 weeks and $3,000 in legal fees to prove it. Then a complaint to the Better Business Bureau from a former client who claimed I'd overcharged for services. The client didn't exist. We traced the complaint back to an IP address registered to Ashford Family's law firm. Then the Richmond Times received an anonymous tip that I was running a charity scam that the foundation was a front for tax evasion. A reporter actually showed up at my office asking questions. I showed him everything. The foundation paperwork, the bank statements, the IRS approval letters. He left apologizing profusely and wrote a glowing article about the foundation instead. But the damage was done. Every attack, even the ones that failed, took time and energy and money to fight. Marcus was right. They were making my life miserable. This is war, Sophia said one afternoon, finding me at my desk surrounded by legal documents. They're trying to break you. They won't. How can you be so sure? Because I've already been broken. When Robert died and his family tried to take everything. When I had to sell my house. When I worked 3 jobs and ate ramen for dinner so Danny could have a better life. I looked at her. The Ashfords think money and connections make them powerful, but I've survived things they can't imagine. They don't scare me. What about Danny? He must know what his in-laws are doing. Soon-to-be ex-in-laws, I corrected. And yes, he knows. He calls every few days apologizing, saying he's trying to get Patricia to stop, but he's not in control of her. Nobody is. Sophia was quiet for a moment. Then, do you think you'll ever forgive him? Really forgive him? I don't know. Some days I think yes. Some days I remember standing in that ballroom, holding that envelope, listening to him laugh, and I think no. It's not just about what he said. It's about what it revealed. About how little he saw me. How little he valued me. But he sees you now. Does he? Or does he just see what he lost? I shook my head. I can't tell yet. And until I can, I need to protect myself. Protect the foundation. Protect everything I've built. Chapter 14. Emma's Story. The design class at the shelter had grown. What started as 12 women was now 20. We met twice a week, and I'd brought in some of my junior designers to help teach. Emma Chen had become my unofficial assistant. She was a natural, creative, hard-working with an eye for detail that impressed even my most experienced employees. She'd moved out of the shelter into a small apartment saved enough for community college tuition and was talking about applying to architecture school. One evening after class, she stayed behind to help me clean up. "Can I ask you something personal?" she said, stacking chairs. "Of course. That story you told about your son and the wedding. Do you regret it, taking everything back?" I paused, holding a stack of sketches. "Sometimes, late at night when I can't sleep, I wonder if I overreacted, if I was too harsh, if I should have just forgiven him and moved on. But then I remember how it felt, standing in that back row invisible and insignificant listening to him mock me. And I remember thinking if I let this go, if I pretend it doesn't matter, then I'm teaching him that it's okay to treat me this way, that I'll always be there no matter how badly he hurts me. And what kind of lesson is that?" Emma nodded slowly. "My mom did that. Let my dad treat her like garbage because she loved him, because she thought love meant accepting everything. She died when I was 16, and I remember thinking I'll never let anyone make me that small." "What happened with your dad?" "He remarried 6 months later. His new wife kicked me out when I turned 18, said I was a reminder of his old life." Emma's voice was bitter. "I tried to make it work. Got a job, found a place with roommates. Then I got pregnant and my boyfriend left and my roommates said I had to go because they didn't want a baby in the apartment. That's how I ended up at the shelter." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. The shelter saved my life. And this class," she gestured around the room, "this is giving me a future. You're giving me a future. And you didn't have to. You don't even know me. But you saw something in me at that gas station and you gave me a chance. You earned that chance, Emma. I just opened the door. That's more than most people do." She set down the last chair and turned to me. "I don't think you overreacted. I think you did what my mom should have done. You drew a line. You said, this is what I'm worth, and if you can't see it, that's your loss. That's not harsh. That's self-respect." We stood there in the quiet classroom surrounded by sketches and drawings and the beginnings of dreams. "Your baby," I said. "Boy or girl?" "Girl, Lily. She's 2 now, in daycare downstairs while I work." Emma smiled, and for the first time since I'd met her, she looked genuinely happy. "She's the reason I keep going. I want her to see me build something, to know that even when everything falls apart, you can put yourself back together, stronger than before. She's lucky to have you." "I hope she thinks so. When she's older and asks why she never met her grandparents or her dad, I hope I can tell her the truth that sometimes the family you're born into isn't the one you deserve, so you build a new one." After Emma left, I sat alone in the classroom for a while, looking at the sketches on the walls, the designs these women had created, the hope and potential in every line. This was why I'd done it, why I'd taken everything back from Danny and put it into the foundation. Not to punish him, not even to teach him a lesson, but to create something that mattered, something that would outlive me, something that would help women like Emma and Karen and all the others who'd been told they weren't enough. My phone buzzed, a text from Danny. "Danny, can we talk? I have news." I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back me, "I'm at the shelter, 1247 Oakwood Avenue. Come here if you want to talk." 30 minutes later, his car pulled up outside. Chapter 15. The confrontation. Danny looked different. Thinner, yes, but it was more than that. He'd cut his hair shorter, traded his expensive suits for jeans and a button-down. He looked younger somehow, more like the boy I'd raised and less like the man the Ashfords had tried to mold him into. "This is the shelter," he asked, looking up at the converted church. "This is it. Come on, I'll show you around." I led him through the building, showed him the daycare where Lily and other children played, the kitchen where residents learned to cook nutritious meals on a budget, the computer lab where women worked on resumes and job applications, the classroom where I taught design. Danny was quiet, taking it all in. "How many women are here?" he finally asked. 43 right now. The shelter can hold up to 50. Average stay is 3 to 6 months. By then, most have found jobs and housing and can transition out." And you teach here twice a week. 3 times now. Tuesday and Thursday for design. Wednesday for business basics. Contracts, invoicing, client relations. Things I wish someone had taught me when I was starting out. We ended up in the classroom. Danny walked slowly along the walls looking at the sketches pinned up. Stopped at one in particular, a detailed drawing of a small house, every room carefully labeled and furnished. "This is beautiful," he said. "Who did this?" "Karen. She's 42, has 2 kids she's trying to get custody of. Before she came here, she was living in her car. Now she's working as a receptionist at a dentist's office and saving for an apartment. That house is her dream. She draws a new version every week, adding details, planning for a future that felt impossible 6 months ago." Danny touched the sketch gently like it was precious. "Mom, this is incredible. What you're doing here. It's what I should have been doing all along. Instead of hoarding money for you, I should have been helping women who actually needed it." "Don't say that. You were being a good mother." "I was being an enabler. I gave you everything without making you earn it. Without teaching you the value of struggle. I thought I was protecting you from the hard times I went through. But really I was just making you soft." He flinched. "That's harsh. Is it you stood at your wedding and mocked me because you genuinely believed I hadn't contributed? You married into a family that systematically erased me and you never even noticed. You tried to use my company as collateral for a loan without asking. Danny, I failed you as a mother. Not by being too hard, but by being too soft." "No? Yes." I turned to face him fully. "I should have made you work summers. Should have made you take out student loans. Should have taught you that everything has a cost and nothing is free. Instead, I gave you a life so comfortable you couldn't even see the sacrifice behind it." Tears were streaming down his face now. "I see it now. God, Mom, I see it so clearly now. Every day I wake up in that tiny Brooklyn apartment and think about you. About how you lived in places like that, worse than that. So I could have better. I go to my legal aid job and meet clients who remind me of you. Single parents working 3 jobs trying so hard to give their kids a future. And I think my mom was one of them. And I shit all over her." "Language," I said automatically, then caught myself. "Old habits. Sorry, but it's true. I was an entitled, ungrateful asshole. Sorry, jerk. And I'm so sorry. I know saying it doesn't fix anything. I know it doesn't undo what I did. But I need you to know I'm trying. I'm trying so hard to be better." "I know you are. But Danny, trying isn't enough. I need to see real change, sustained change. Not just you feeling guilty and overcompensating for a few months. Real fundamental change in how you see the world, how you value people. What can I do?" "Tell me what to do and I'll do it." "That's exactly the problem. You're still looking to me for answers, for instructions. You're 32 years old. You should be able to figure out how to be a decent person without me telling you how." He wiped his face with his sleeve. Nodded. "You're right. I'm sorry. I'm scared, Mom. Scared you'll never forgive me. Scared I've destroyed us permanently." "I'm scared too," I admitted. "Scared that if I forgive you too easily, you'll just go back to taking me for granted. Scared that if I don't forgive you at all, I'll lose my only child. I don't know what the right answer is." We stood there in silence for a moment. Then Danny said quietly, "You mentioned I had news. Right. What is it?" "The divorce is final, as of yesterday. Tori didn't contest it, probably because her lawyer told her she couldn't win. We had a prenup, ironically. Patricia insisted on it, thinking it would protect Tori if I turned out to be poor. Turns out it protected me instead." "How are you doing with that?" "Honestly relieved. The marriage was a mistake from the start. I see that now. I married Tori because she represented everything I thought I wanted. Status. Acceptance into a world that was never mine. But I didn't love her. Not really. I loved what she represented." "And what about Patricia?" "The legal threats." His face hardened. "That's the other news. I filed a restraining order against Patricia. She's been harassing me, showing up at my apartment, calling my office, threatening to ruin my career if I don't talk sense into you." "Danny." "No, Mom. Listen, I hired a lawyer. A good one. We documented everything. The emails about erasing you from the wedding, the attempts to claim you're mentally incompetent, the anonymous complaints filed against your business. All of it. We're building a case for harassment and defamation. That's going to be expensive. I don't care. I'm done letting her control my life. Control our lives. He looked at me. I know I can't undo what I did, can't take back what I said at the wedding, but I can make sure she never hurts you again. That has to count for something. It did count, more than I wanted to admit. There's something else, Danny said. Something I need to tell you. The divorce settlement, Tori had to give back all the wedding gifts, including the check her parents gave us. $50,000. Okay. I want to donate it to your foundation, to the shelter. I know it's not nearly enough to make up for what I did, but no. He looked startled. What, why? Because that money came from the Ashfords. I don't want their money. I don't want anything from them. But it's legally mine now. Then you donate it somewhere else. A different shelter, a different charity, but not here. This place, this foundation, it's built on what I earned, what I chose to give, not on Ashford guilt money. Danny's face crumpled. You're right. I'm sorry I wasn't thinking. But I interrupted. If you want to contribute to the foundation, you could volunteer. Teach a class on tenant rights. Help the women here understand their legal options when landlords try to take advantage. Use your actual skills instead of just throwing money at the problem. He brightened. Really? You'd let me do that? If you commit to it. Not once or twice, but regularly. These women need reliability. They've had enough people make promises and then disappear. I'll commit. I promise. When can I start? Talk to Sophia Martinez. She runs the shelter. If she approves you, you can start next month. Danny pulled out his phone immediately, typing notes. Sophia Martinez, tenant rights class, next month. Got it. Watching him focused, determined, actually engaged with something meaningful, I felt a tiny crack in the wall I'd built around my heart. Maybe he really was changing. Maybe there was hope. Chapter 16, The Foundation Gala. 6 months after the wedding, the Margaret Coleman Foundation held its first major fundraiser. We'd rented a beautiful venue, an old mansion that had been converted into an event space, all hardwood floors and crystal chandeliers. Nothing as ostentatious as Danny's wedding, but elegant, dignified. The guest list was carefully curated. Business leaders, philanthropists, women who'd built their own success and wanted to help others do the same. And most importantly, 12 graduates from the shelter program. Women who'd completed the design course and were now working in various firms across Richmond. Karen was there wearing a dress she'd made herself, beaming. She'd gotten her kids back, had an apartment, was taking college classes at night while working full-time. Emma was there too, looking professional in a blazer and slacks. She'd just been accepted to Virginia Tech's architecture program with a full scholarship. Lily was with a babysitter, but Emma had photos on her phone that she showed everyone proudly. The event started at 7. Cocktail hour, then dinner, then speeches. I was nervous. Public speaking had never been my strength. But Sophia had convinced me that people needed to hear directly from me, needed to understand why this foundation mattered. At 8:30, I took the podium. The room quieted. 250 faces turned toward me. Good evening, I began. 6 months ago, I made a decision that changed my life. I chose to take money I'd been saving for my son and use it instead to help women I'd never met. Some people thought I was being vindictive, petty, cruel even. I paused, looking out at the audience. But here's what I learned: giving to people who take you for granted doesn't make you generous. It makes you an enabler. Real generosity is giving to people who will use it to transform their lives, who will appreciate it, who will pay it forward. I gestured to the table where the shelter graduates sat. Karen was living in her car with 2 children. Now she's working as a design assistant and pursuing her degree. Emma was 19, pregnant and homeless. Now she's headed to Virginia Tech on full scholarship. These women and dozens like them are the reason this foundation exists. Not to punish my son, not to prove a point, but because I finally understood that my value isn't determined by whether my family sees it. My legacy isn't about what I leave to one person. It's about what I leave to all of us. To women who've been told they're not enough, that they don't deserve better, that they should be grateful just to survive. My voice strengthened. This foundation says you are enough. You deserve not just to survive, but to thrive, and we're going to help you get there. The applause was thunderous. Karen was crying. Emma was on her feet, clapping hard enough that I could hear her from across the room. When the noise died down, I continued. I want to introduce you to some of these remarkable women. Each of them will share briefly about their journey and what they're building for their futures. One by one, they came to the podium, told their stories. their struggles, their victories. By the end, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. Then came the fundraising portion. We'd hoped to raise $50,000. We raised $370,000. Business owners pledged scholarships. Architects offered paid internships. A real estate developer donated office space for the foundation headquarters. It was overwhelming, humbling, proof that when you build something real, something meaningful, people want to be part of it. As the event was winding down, I stood near the entrance thanking guests as they left. That's when I saw him, Danny, standing in the doorway. He wasn't on the guest list, I hadn't invited him, but there he was wearing a simple suit, holding a single flower, a lily. We stared at each other across the crowded room. He didn't approach, just raised the flower slightly in acknowledgement, in apology, in offering. I nodded once. Not forgiveness, not yet, but recognition. He smiled sad but genuine, and left. James Brennan appeared at my elbow. Was that Danny? Yes. You didn't invite him? No. But you're not angry he came. I thought about it, about the flower, about the gesture, about 6 months of watching him change slowly but surely. No, I said finally. I'm not angry. That's progress. Maybe, or maybe I'm just tired of being angry. Those can be the same thing. Later that night, back at my condo, I found the lily Danny had left on my doorstep. Tucked into the pot was a note. Mom, I wasn't invited tonight and I understand why. But I needed to be there, needed to see what you built, what you created from the ashes of what I destroyed. It's magnificent. You're magnificent. And I'm so proud to be your son even though I don't deserve to be. I've been volunteering at the Brooklyn shelter for 4 months now, teaching tenant rights every Tuesday. I've helped 17 women fight illegal evictions. Last week I helped a single mom get her security deposit back from a predatory landlord. She cried and hugged me and said I'd saved her. I thought about you, about how many times you saved me, and how I never said thank you. So I'm saying it now. Thank you. For everything. For every sacrifice. Every dollar. Every sleepless night. Every dream you gave up so I could have mine. Thank you for not giving up on me even when I gave up on myself. I love you, Danny. I read the note 3 times. Then I put the lily in water and placed it on my kitchen windowsill, where every morning when the sun came up, it would be the first thing I saw. Chapter 17, The Garden. Spring came slowly to Richmond that year. I'd started a garden in the small patch of dirt behind my condo building. Nothing fancy, just some vegetables and a few flowers. Tomatoes, basil, marigolds, zinnias. It was peaceful working in the dirt. Therapeutic. Every Saturday morning I'd wake early, make coffee, and spend 2 hours tending my plants, pulling weeds, checking for pests, watching things grow. One Saturday in late April, Danny showed up unannounced. He was wearing old jeans and a t-shirt, carrying 2 coffees from the shop I liked. "Peace offering," he said, holding one out. "And maybe, could I help with the garden?" I looked at him, at the hope in his eyes, at the way he stood there uncertain, waiting for permission to be part of my life again. "You know anything about gardening?" "Not a thing, but I'm a good learner." I took the coffee. "Gloves are in the shed. We're weeding today." We worked side by side for 2 hours, not talking much, just pulling weeds the way we used to pull dandelions from the lawn when he was little. "I like this," Danny said eventually. "It's quiet, peaceful. That's why I do it. Everything has been so loud lately. The foundation, the legal battles with Patricia." "That's over, by the way," Danny interrupted. "Marcus Chen called me yesterday. Patricia dropped everything. The restraining order scared her, I think. And Rebecca, my aunt, apparently had a very frank conversation with her brother about family reputation and harassment lawsuits." "So it's done?" "It's done. She's still bitter, still telling people you're crazy, but she can't actually do anything about it anymore." I sat back on my heels, feeling a weight lift. "Good. Mom, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Do you think you'll ever forgive me? Really, truly forgive me?" I looked at my garden, at the tiny tomato plants just starting to bud, at the marigolds beginning to bloom. "I think," I said slowly, "that forgiveness is like gardening. It doesn't happen all at once. You don't just plant a seed and immediately have a flower. You have to tend it, water it, give it time and patience and care. And even then, some things don't grow. Some seeds don't take root. So what you're saying is maybe What I'm saying is I'm trying. I see you trying too, and that matters. But Danny, you hurt me, deeply. And that doesn't just go away because you apologize or volunteer at a shelter or show up with coffee. I know. I miss you. I miss talking to you. I miss having a mom. You have a mom. She's just learning how to be your mom instead of your ATM, your enabler, your invisible support system. He nodded, pulled another weed. Fair enough. We worked in silence for a while longer. Then Danny said, Emma spoke at the gala. She was incredible, so articulate and passionate. She's going to do great things. She told me something interesting. Said you saw her at a gas station and gave her your card. Just like that. No questions, no judgment. Just saw potential and gave her a chance. So why couldn't you do that with me? Why did I have to lose everything before you'd give me a chance to change? I set down my trowel, looked at him directly. Because Emma was trying. She was working doubles, saving for college, trying to build something despite impossible odds. You were coasting, taking everything for granted, actively erasing me from your life. Emma needed a door opened. You needed to hit rock bottom before you'd even admit there was a problem. That's harsh. It's true. And if I'd just forgiven you after the wedding, given you back the penthouse and the shares and pretended nothing happened, what would you have learned? That Mom will always bail me out? That there are no consequences? That I can treat her however I want and she'll still give me everything? I get it, I do, but it still hurts. Still, good, it should hurt. Pain is how we learn, how we grow. Your father understood that. He used to say, Margaret, don't protect Danny from consequences. Let him fail. Let him hurt. That's how he'll learn to succeed. Danny's eyes widened. Dad said that all the time. When you were learning to ride a bike and kept falling, I wanted to put training wheels back on. Your dad said no. Said you needed to figure it out yourself. And you did. I miss him, Danny said quietly. Me too. Every day, but especially lately. He would have been so disappointed in you, Daniel. In the man you became. The man who valued status over substance. Who chose the Ashfords over his own mother. I know. That's the worst part. Not just that I disappointed you, but that I would have disappointed Dad too. But, I added gently, he would have been proud of you now, of what you're doing at Legal Aid, at the shelter, of you standing up to Patricia, of you choosing truth over comfort. You think so? I know so. Your father was all about integrity, about doing the right thing even when it was hard. You're finally doing that. We finished the weeding, watered the plants, sat on the back steps drinking our now cold coffees. Can I come back next Saturday? Danny asked. Help with the garden? If you want to. I do. I really do. Then yes, Saturdays at 8. Don't be late. He smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from him since before the wedding. I won't. I promise. After he left, I stayed in the garden for a while, looking at what we'd accomplished together. The neat rows of weeds piled in the compost bin, the freshly watered plants standing a little straighter. Maybe this was how we'd rebuild. Slowly, carefully, one Saturday at a time. Not rushing, not forcing, just tending what was there and hoping it would grow. Epilogue. 1 year later, the Foundation's first anniversary gala was even bigger than the launch event. 500 guests. 42 graduates from our programs, not just from Richmond, but from 3 new shelters we'd partnered with across Virginia. Over $2 million raised. Emma Chen was the keynote speaker. She stood at the podium in a professional dress she'd designed herself, confident and poised, and told the story of how a chance encounter at a gas station had changed her life. Margaret Coleman didn't know me, Emma said. Didn't know if I'd succeed or fail. Didn't know if I was worth the risk, but she gave me a chance anyway. And that chance became a scholarship. That scholarship became an education. That education became a career. And that career is becoming a legacy. She paused, looked directly at me in the front row. Because next year I'm starting my own foundation for young mothers in crisis. Because Margaret taught me that the best way to honor a gift is to pass it forward. The room erupted in applause. Danny sat beside me, clapping hard. He came to every event now. Volunteered 15 hours a week at the shelter. Had helped over 100 women navigate legal issues in the past year. We still weren't completely healed. Some wounds run too deep for that. But we were rebuilding. Slowly, carefully. After the speeches, after the fundraising, after most of the guests had left, Danny and I stood on the terrace overlooking the city. "You did it, Mom," he said. "You built something incredible." "We did it. You've been a huge part of this, especially in the last 6 months." "I'm just trying to make up for—" "Stop," I interrupted. "Stop trying to make up for the past. Start building toward the future. That's what this is about. Not atonement. Creation." He nodded. Then carefully, "Can I hug you?" I hesitated, then opened my arms. He held me like he was afraid I'd disappear, like I was precious, valuable, important, like I'd always wanted him to see me. "I love you, Mom," he whispered. "And I see you now. I really see you. I love you too, baby. And I'm proud of you. The man you've become. The man you're still becoming." We stood there under the stars, holding each other, two people who'd been broken and were slowly becoming whole. Later that night, back at my condo, I found a package on my doorstep. Inside was a framed photo. Me and Danny in the garden, taken by Sophia without me knowing. We were kneeling side by side, planting tomatoes, both laughing at something. And underneath, in Danny's handwriting, "The best gardens are the ones we grow together. Thank you for teaching me how to show up, how to tend, how to bloom. I'm still learning, but I'm not giving up. I love you, Mom." Danny. I hung it on my wall, right next to the photo of me at 30, exhausted and swollen-eyed, holding newborn Danny and smiling like I'd been given the world. Both photos were true. Both were part of our story, the pain and the healing, the loss and the rebuilding, the mother I was and the woman I became. And standing there looking at those photos, at the journey they represented, I realized something important. I didn't need Danny to validate me. I didn't need anyone to validate me. I'd built something magnificent, something that would outlive me, something that mattered. Not for him, not for anyone else, for me. And for all the women who, like me, had learned that sometimes you have to lose everything to discover what you're really worth. The end. Boom. What would you do if you were in Margaret's place? Have you ever had to rebuild a relationship from the ground up? Comment below and tell me where you're watching from. If you enjoyed this story, check out these 2 other channel favorites about family forgiveness and finding your worth.